Okay, so 6C, students will be able to factor trinomials. Trinomials are anything with three terms. Something that looks like this: x squared plus 3x plus 2. I made it up. Okay, so three terms. Here's term number 1, 2, and 3. We call it a trinomial. Okay, binomial will have something like this, where it's only two terms, 1, 2. Using the Xbox method. Okay, I'm going to check using the peanut box. Again, if you haven't done so already, that quiz, if you are completely done with adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing on extra math, if not, continue extra math. The codes are here. Again, still standard 11.0. Factoring means breaking things down into parts. The multiplication, kind of like dividing. Okay, here are the vocabulary words that should be in the bottom of your paper. We've covered almost all of these already, so just keep in mind if you have any questions, I'm going to be using these words pretty regularly. Okay, difference of squares, so I'm going to go over this very quickly. Pause the video when you need to. So I'm going to jump ahead, and you pause it if you need it. Okay, so factor it out really quick. X times x is x squared, 6 times 6 is 36. They have to be the same number. X's go in the first part because they're in the front. 6's go in the back because they're the second half of the number. Okay, so I put out a peanut box so we can check our work. X times x is going to be x squared. X times 6 is positive 6x. Negative 6 times x is negative 6x. And negative 6 times 6 is negative 36. Positive and negatives are opposites, so they cancel each other out. Those go away. You're left with x squared minus 36. It works. Okay. Now for your second do not question, I reordered them. I used communion property. I switched the order. I'm going to find the GCF first. So GCF, that is a factor. That's what the word F means. And then I'm going to do difference of squares right afterwards. Okay, so the first things, I got my GCF. They both divisible by 2. I have to take the 2 out. And I have 4t. There's the 4. T squared remaining. Here I have 49 r squared remaining. The first number goes first, so 2t here. Sorry, wrong color. 2t first. 2t and 2t. And negative 7r and positive 7r. Now, a lot of us last time forgot that this GCF is a factor, so we'll bring that down. Okay, so today's lesson, teacher number 1. Now, last class we were talking about which two numbers. It was last week Wednesday, so we're going to use that skill today. Which two numbers? Okay. Now I'm going to label these very, very quickly. We'll call this A x squared. X just represents any variable, so in this case x squared is going to match to t squared, and then we're going to have plus b x, and again x represents a t, and then last but not least we'll have c term plus our c term. Our c term is a constant, it has no variable, so c is always the one without a variable, or the last term. Okay, now we call this Xbox method because we have an x, and I'll go to the box next. Now in the x term I'm going to have a times c at the top and a b on the bottom. Okay, so I'm just going to fill in my numbers and I'll figure out what they are. Okay, here I'll have a times c, and a times c is, in this case, 1 times 12. 1 times 12. 1 times 12. Now the bottom, our b term, very, very simple, is 8. Okay, I'm going to erase this 1 because 1 times 12 is 1, so I'm going to change this and actually make it just a 12. Okay, now these two numbers are mystery numbers that go here and here. Okay, they add up to the bottom, so I'm going to add up here and I'm going to multiply up top. So which two numbers multiply to 12? Which two numbers add up to 8? So something times something, 6 times 2. 6 times 2 is 12. 6 times 2 is 8. This works. Okay. Now that's the X portion of the X box. And here's the box portion. Okay. Now inside the box we have let's label again. We'll put our a x squared here. We'll put our c term at the end. We'll have our two orange terms, which actually have a name. Our orange terms are called mx and nx. mx and nx. Okay, so I'm going to put all these terms. I'm going to put the red one here, the green one there, this one here, and this one there. Okay, so let's draw another box. Let's do this over here. Okay, so our a term is going to be t squared, or 1 t squared. Our c term, our last term, is going to be 12, positive 12. Our nx term, okay, is going to be 6, okay, and I call it an x. I want a variable there also, so 6t, positive, and here I'll have a 2t and positive. Now once I find out what these are, I'm going to put in my, I have to find my GCF of this row, GCF, so I have this column, and GCF here, and GCF. Now you see why knowing how to find your GCF and your division is very important. Okay, so the GCF of this row, 6 and 12 are both divided by positive 6. 2t and t squared are both divisible by 2. Oh, not 2, see, that was a mistake. They're both divisible by t. T squared and 6t are both divisible by t. And 2 and 12 are both divisible by positive 2. X box. Okay. Now we can check to make sure everything works. T times t, good. T times 6, good. 2 times t, good. And 2 times 6, 12. Okay. X box method. Okay. Final answer should be t plus 6 times t plus 2. Okay, we did this with the algebra tiles, so we're kind of just doing it all over again with actual numbers. Okay, students who, I'm going to draw out your X box, I'll label everything, I'll be right back in the video. Okay, so I labeled everything, put out some guides for you guys. Here's A, here's my B, here's my C, so this is my A, here's my B, and here's my C. Put everything in the right place. A times C, so 1 times negative 56 is going to be negative 56. So here I'll have negative 56. My B term, my B is negative 1. Now, this gets a little trickier once you start having negatives, especially if you're not good with them, and that's usually where we're having a lot of our trouble. So I have to think of two numbers that multiply to give me negative 56, and the same two numbers should add to give me negative 1. So 56 is going to be 8 times 7. And I want a negative 1, so I want my number to be negative. One of them. There you go. Okay. Now let me clear up these colors. These two should actually be in orange, so they match. So we'll call this negative 8 and positive 7. Okay. Now I'll put everything into the box correctly. Here I have my A and my C. I should have labeled this with my M and my N. So MX and NX. Now this is, I don't know if I mixed it up from the last time, but M and N, they don't matter which one is which. So whichever one you want can go wherever. So this is negative 8, and this is positive 7. And now, remember, I put an X there, which means I have to put the variable. So this should be a T, and this should be a T. I'll have my A term, which is 1p squared, which I'm just going to write as p squared, should be in black, p squared, and my C term, which is negative 56. Now, GCF of each row and column, GCF of, oh, I changed the variables, sorry. It should not be T, it should be P. That's important. So this should be a P. Okay, so GCF of each row, the first row, they don't have any numbers in column, so common, so they must just be a P. These don't have any variables, so it must be just a number, both divisible by positive 7. This is both a P, and this one is both a negative 8. Check P times P, check P times negative 8, 7 at P, and 7 negative 8. There you go. Answer, P minus 8 times P plus 7. Now, let's do a quick review of what our learning target was. Check using the peanut box. This peanut box is the box portion of the X box. Okay, so as I'm finding my answer, the T plus, oh, the wrong one. As I'm finding my answer, P minus 8 and P plus 7, I am using the peanut box to check. So part of finding the answer is checking it. This is your final answer. Okay, again, I'm going to label everything for you guys, set everything up. Okay, so again, labeled. A term is the first one, so that's A times C. 1 times negative 18. C term is negative 18 times negative 18, and our B term is 3. Now, I'm going to simplify this section. I'm always going to show you the multiplication, even though it usually comes out to the C term, but not always. This is negative 18. Our M and N terms, we have to find out. They must multiply this top number and add to this bottom number. 18 is what, 9 times 2, but 9 and 2 aren't going to make 3. So two numbers that make negative 18, 6 times 3. Now, see, 6 and 3, that's going to give me 3, only if this is a negative. 6 times negative 3, negative 18, 6 times 3, 3. Okay. So 6 and 3, 6n and negative 3n, our first term, n squared, and our last term should be negative 18. GCF of this row is going to be 6n, n, and negative 3. Check n squared, 6n, negative 3, multiply, negative 18. N plus 6 and n plus 3, n minus 3. Okay, so I can show you the work really quick. I'm running out of time, so I'm going to try and keep this short. I'll show you the work. I'll move on. Okay, so I did most of the work already. Again, A times C, 1 times 144 is 144. B on the bottom, 24. Okay, I'm going to put the C here, 144, and the A term in the front, which is W squared. Okay, and the two missing terms, my two mystery numbers that you were practicing with earlier, are going to be 12W and 12W. GCF of each row, 12 and 144, is 12, W, W, and 12. We'll add W plus 12 and W plus 12. Now, if they're the same like they are here, exactly the same, you can rewrite it as W plus 12 squared, because you have two of them. Okay. Now, this one's a little bit different. Now, the key thing about this one is your A term is not a 1, unlike before. So let me show you what the work looks like, and I'll be right back. Okay, so everything's all set up. Again, this part's where it's different. 3a times negative 16. 3 times negative 16 is going to be negative 48. Now that's where things change as before. Before I was just multiplying by a 1. Now it's actually going to change a little bit. Okay, my two mystery numbers here are going to be a little bit bigger. We've got 6 times 8, 12, 48, 24, 6 and 8. Yeah, so 6 times 8, 1's got to be a negative. So 6h and negative 8h. GCF of each row. Again, I got GCF of each row, each column. Check 3h, good. 3 times 2, 6. 8 times h, good. 8 times 2, negative 16. Okay, so 20 times 2, I wrote 3, that should be a 2. It's 40. 8 times 5. Put them in here so they fit. GCF, there you go. Pause it to double check. There it is.